Hello, Falco friends. This is Andy over at Falco Canine Academy with continuing my series of some of our frequently asked questions and our should ask questions. Today, it's a frequently asked question. As a matter of fact, there is a post on our Facebook page that was made, I think today or yesterday, and essentially the question was whether a dog could be untrainable or not. And I think she was asking for somebody else. I'm assuming that she is actually asking for somebody else because based on the question, she was concerned for the person who was bit by their own dog. And I think a daughter was also bit. And so I'm going to address these questions, or this one question in particular, and there's some things that you really, truly need to be aware of when answering this question, or when we are posed with this question, there's things that have to be considered. And I'll give you the answer in 1 minute. It's just there's a link that I want you to be aware of, and that is the Animal Wellness Summit that's going to be in November. And if you are not registered yet, you should be. If you care about dogs, dogs, cats, and horses in particular, you're going to want to be a part of the summit. It's a 10-day summit. It's virtual, so it's online. And I don't know for sure. I should ask. This is one of the frequently asked questions that I should ask the host. Is there going to be an agenda that's given out as to what topics are going to be discussed each day? I'm assuming there will be, but either way, if you have a pet, if you're part of a rescue or a shelter, if you own a pet shop, if you are a dog trainer, you should be a part of this Animal Wellness Summit in November. It's going to be a good one. I've seen some of the people that are going to be on it, and they're going to be talking about a lot of topics that are going to be good for you. So all you have to do is click on the link and then just register. The registration is so that they can send you the links that are necessary to be in the summit and watch the summit. So you're going to want to make sure and do that. And so do that. Click on the link. All right. What else? One other thing I wanted to ask, if you're enjoying these, I see that we have hundreds of people who watch these videos, both live and in the replay. And if you could take the time, especially if you like it, if you don't like it, just send me a message and that way we can talk about it. But if you do like it, I would really appreciate 5 stars on our Facebook page, Falco Canine Academy's Facebook page. It's really helpful to us. It allows me to continue to do what it is I'm doing. And again, if you don't like what we're doing, just send me a private message. That would be awesome. And we can work some things out as to maybe whatever it is that you don't like that we're doing. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I appreciate comments that will challenge me to reinforce either what it is that I'm doing or maybe look at things differently. So feel free to do that. I can see what people are watching now. So as you're watching, it would be great if you would just go ahead and type in where you're watching from. Your name will show up, but where you're watching from and any questions you might have about the topic I'm talking about now, or even a future issue that you want me to bring up. All right, so go ahead and address that. So let's talk about this issue about whether a dog is trainable or not. So I'm going to move my chair a little bit closer. And the answer is probably not. Your dog is probably trainable. And in most cases, what I've seen over the years is that every dog, except for a very small, tiny fraction, I can say since I've been doing this for about 30 years, right off the bat, I was trying to remember how many dogs that I ran into that were untrainable. And I think the number is probably about 4. So considering we've trained thousands of dogs over the years, police dogs, detection dogs, pet dogs, in all of our courses and classes and conferences, that kind of stuff, I can only think of 4 that we weren't able to either make a difference or see a difference and see the possibility of the dog improving. Whether the dog improved or not was really up to the handler or the owner. But the number of dogs that I felt were just, this one's broken, I can think of 4. There might be a couple more in there. Actually, maybe add another one. Let me add 5, because there was another dog that after we told the people that the dog was untrainable and dangerous, they sent it to another trainer, which can happen. But the dog had already been to 3 trainers, I think, up to that point, and had been, labeled as dangerous by a shelter. And then they brought it to us, and I said, yeah, unfortunately, I got to say that they're right. They then sent it to another trainer. I saw pictures later where that dog had bit the thumb off of the next trainer. Right. So at least we were smart enough not to have that happen to us. But yeah, the thumb of the next trainer, who told me that I was full of crap and that the dog could be trainable, the very trainer that said that, that my conclusion was not valid, she lost a thumb. So there you go. So I've seen a lot of dogs. I've seen a lot of dogs that people thought were untrainable. We've received dogs from other trainers, said, hey, if anybody can do it, you guys can do it, or go see Falco Canine Academy. We've gotten a lot of that, and we've been able to see a difference. So let's talk about some of the things, a reason why a dog would be untrainable. And some of these are going to be very clear, and one of them may be controversial, and which will be the last one. All right. So, of course, one of the obvious ones is that the dog could be genetically flawed. That obviously is an issue, because what we talk about all the time is that we can fix bad training, right? Quite often, we can train dogs to hold back on some of their impulses through good, sound training, right? We teach the dog to control itself. I often compare this to an alcoholic who has this thing that there's always going to be with them and carrying with them, but we teach people how to, a lot of ego-driven trainers. Yeah, Jack. I hope that that's not pointed to me, but yeah, there are a lot of ego-driven. I am proud to say that I don't know the answers to everything, but we have a lot of answers. I can tell you that. And so back to genetic sound is that the genetics of a dog are so. That is the dog, right? It makes up everything. It makes the dog a dog. And if you have a genetic flaw where the dog is this super rank dog who doesn't understand that there needs to be a leader in his life, that he's constantly trying to be a leader, and that is in the dog's genetics, that could be an untrainable dog. I've seen a few of those that we've been able to make a difference in, but you have to obviously have a strong handler, which we're going to address later on. But if it's so strong, if that genetic flaw is so tweaked and so out of place, then I'm going to post Jack's thing up here. Thank you, Jack. If the genetic flaw is so darn strong that it's just, you can't teach a dog to control himself, you can't teach a dog a new habit or a behavior that the dog does instead of the aggression, which we're obviously talking mostly about aggression, right? Untrainable in regard to aggression. Genetic flaw is a tough one to overcome, because it is just simply the makeup of that dog, and can be very difficult. The next one is mental retardation. There are dogs that are born mentally retarded. I think a lot of people who I have run into have pet dogs, and even police dog handlers say their dog is mentally retarded, but they're just trying to say that they are, that the handler's trying to say in a way that he's lazy. All right. I have run across many lazy handlers who just simply want the best dog. And then somehow they just want it to happen, right? They don't put in the time. They don't put in the effort, right? And so instead they call their dog's name. I address this about your attitude about your dog is huge. And so the easy thing to say when you can't get your dog to do something or change its ways is that it's the dog's fault, right? It's the problem with the dog. The dog's mentally retarded. All right. So that, I hear that way more often than I even care to share with you about a dog, is that the dog is dumb, the dog is stupid, the dog is mentally retarded, the dog has ADD. Not really any of those things are the case. It just means the dog might be difficult, right? And it has a personality that you have to overcome. Not all children are perfect, right? There's some children that have that are hard to harness and get a hold of, and they can all be trained. We just, as the adults and the human beings, have to be better at understanding how is it that we work with that child, how is it that we work with this dog, and we can't be lazy about it. If we've selected a dog that's tough by buying a dog or taking a dog for free at the grocery store without doing our due diligence, or pick the dog because, oh, look at that dog, he's in the corner all by himself, and he looks really scared. That's really not a smart thing to do, is take a dog just simply because it's scared, because especially if it's a big dog, that turns into a very fearful, aggressive dog when it gets older. Well, you selected the wrong dog for what it is that your personality was willing to deal with. Maybe you don't have the time. Maybe you feel that you're too busy. Maybe you have too much going on in your life, too much going on with your family. That was the wrong dog to bring into your world, because you're not prepared. And I use lazy is a bad thing, but simply maybe it's just the wrong dog for your place in your life right now. And so that can happen. I started years ago for aggression rehabilitation and studied dog ethology, working with Rotties, Dobies, etc. Learn my lesson from an Akita. Yeah. Oh, Akitas. Yeah. That's genetics, right? The Akita has some genetics that, oh, wow, they can be beautiful dogs, right? And they look so fluffy and cuddly, and then they get you. But they have genetics, right? There's genetics in the Akita. There's genetic flaws in Dalmatians because they're overbred during the 101 Dalmatian movie making and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, Jack's correct. And when we go back to that genetics, but back to mental retardation is, you don't see it a lot, right? And I can't say that I've probably, it's probably hard to diagnose necessarily with a dog because it could be a genetic flaw, right? And we can give it a label. We can say that genetic flaw causes this dog to be mentally retarded. But it's just one of those things. It's just the dog has it was born with a brain that doesn't allow it to learn, that doesn't allow it to understand what it means to be a dog, that there's these hierarchies and that dogs need a leader. Dogs are, pack animals that thrive from a leader. Dogs all want a leader. They all want a leader unless it's genetically flawed or mentally retarded, right? Because that's just the way dogs are. They do much better with leadership, rules and boundaries and obedience than they do just kind of like be free, dog, and do whatever it is you want to do. Dogs don't do well in that situation. Now, you may think your dog does, and I get arguments all day long about that, but dogs desire a leader that gives them rules and boundaries. Children need a leader, and they need rules and boundaries, and they can't win every award. They can't win just for being on a team. You get in that mentality, you raise problematic children, right? You raise a dog without rules and boundaries and obedience, you end up with a problematic dog. That's just the way it is, right? It's not that the dog's mentally retarded. It is that you have not given that dog what it needs, and that's a sound leader, and you need to commit time to a dog. I don't own a dog, right? People ask me all the time. I got asked just the other day on a plane. They go, what? Well, I know we got talking about dog training. What kind of dog? I don't own a dog. Why? Because I don't have the time. I know well enough that I'm so busy with other people's dogs, traveling all the time, speaking and the television stuff and all the other stuff that I got going on that I don't have time. Why would I have a dog? Because I don't have time to put in the effort for the dog. And the dog would constantly have to be sat by somebody else because I'm not here, right? So I realize that I cannot have a dog of my own, at least not right now. All right. So spent a lot of time on that. Okay. Brain injury. This has come up a couple times, and for a rescue, I was asked to take a look at a dog that had been hit by a car. That before it got hit by the car, the dog was sociable. The dog was, for the most part, had some obedience. But since the car accident, the dog has shown aggression and will be wagging its tail, which is not that unusual with like a pit bull. But this was a German Shepherd. It was wagging its tail. Then all of a sudden, it would attack you. I remember sitting outside the kennel where this dog was. I'm not going to tell you where it is because it may give something away. But I remember I sat outside the kennel, rested up against the door of the kennel for 2 hours, waiting for the dog to stop growling. And it's not funny in the sense that that dog was in such pain but it was just that I sat there for 2 hours before the dog finally stopped growling. Some people want these quick fixes, right? It takes me back to a couple of police dogs that I had. Handlers wanted me to fix for them, and they just wanted it fixed on a weekly training, and they wanted it done in an hour. And I said, no, this is a 4 to 6 week, if not longer, process to get your dog to stop doing this thing. And I'll go into the story maybe later in this, or maybe another episode. But it took about 3 months, maybe 4 months. It was somewhere in that range to get a dog to stop doing what it was doing. And it had to be committed. You had to be committed to stop this particular behavior that was super problematic. The dog screamed before doing a door search or a building search at the door. And so, but it took months to get this dog over it. Anyway, so I sat there at the door waiting for the dog to stop growling. As soon as the dog stopped growling, I then put a little kibble through the door. The dog ate it, and the dog went back to growling. The growling went on for another, I think it was about 45 minutes, somewhere in there. It was a lot less. And then the moment the dog stopped growling, I put in a little kibble, and it was not even kibble. It was like a mushy piece of meat, but it was, a treat that I was giving the dog. And then the dog would start to growling again. And so then I went to about 20 minutes of sitting there next to the kennel, leaning up against the door, the dog growling, and then the dog stopped, and I gave him another piece of kibble. And then the dog didn't growl. And then I dropped another piece of kibble, and then I held the kibble until the dog took it out of my fingers. And I did that 5 or 6 times. I then opened the door and gave the dog a kibble, and then closed the door. I then opened the door, gave the dog a kibble, waited, and then closed the door until I did all these steps, right? This took about 3 hours or so. There were plenty of people there and witness, as anybody ever wants to know whether it is these stories that I tell you are true. I can get you in line with whoever you need to know that, because this was in a place where there were a lot of people working at the same time. And so I eventually got into the kennel with the dog. I was able to get a muzzle on the dog. Right, the dog didn't have a muzzle on. I had the muzzle on the dog, and what I did is I took the kibble, I put it at the opening of the nylon muzzle, and then as the dog came to get it, then I just draped it over the dog's neck and didn't tighten it up and gave him the kibble. The dog, surprisingly, didn't shake his head, didn't shake it off. I then gave a dog another piece of kibble, and I was able to pull the loose end of the muzzle so that the chingadera would go in the hole, and then I got the muzzle on, and then I was able to secure it and make it tight. And then got the dog out. I tried to work with that dog for another hour or so outside, and then based on what I was seeing with that dog and the time I spent with that dog eventually had to be euthanized. There was nothing that was going to be able to overcome the brain injury that this dog has sustained, because the brain had swollen and caused damage to the brain, and there was no way of this dog didn't have a home. It was a dog that was given up by the owners after the dog had gotten into the car accident, I believe, and they never showed up to claim the dog. And so it was going to be a rescue where the dog would probably end up with the rest of his life in a kennel, never to have a happy life. And the dog was in such mental pain, that the decision to euthanize the dog was made. And I cried like a baby because in that short period of time, I just understood the dog's pain. And there was nothing I believe that anybody could do with that dog, because there would be a moment where we would see the dog actually wagging its tail. And the next thing you know, without a change in its eyes, without a change in its body language, the dog would just attack. Like, I'm not talking, again, if you know our history, you know that I know the difference between a dog just trying to fear bite you and get you to go away. No, this dog was full on trying to eat me. But it was tough. And I said, my choice, my recommendation, and I held the dog in my arms as they put the dog to sleep and felt the dog's heartbeat stop and take his last breath. Getting emotional just talking about it. It is not ever something that I want to do or care to do. It's just had to be done. There was no place for this dog, and it just would have been a horrible life for this dog, and the dog needed to be put out of its pain. All right. So, mental injury. So that is one. Yikes. Extreme mental trauma. Now, this is different than a brain injury. This is that a dog has been through some traumatic experience in its life, mistreated. I, as a police officer, went on a call. I was going on a call unrelated to this dog. As I was walking past his apartment, I heard the sound of a metallic sound being used to bang against something. And then at the same time, hearing yelps and screams from a dog. And as I looked over the fence, it was an apartment complex, strangely enough. And as I looked over, I saw this guy saying, a few bad words and literally hitting the dog with an aluminum ladder. And it was in a way that he was hitting it and striking it, but it wasn't causing any broken bones or anything. But I immediately said, "Stop, Anaheim police." And the guy goes, "Get that," and he, yelled at me, "Mind your own business," type of thing. And I said, "Oh no, that's the wrong thing to say." Needless to say, we rescued that dog, got the dog out. The dog ended up being okay, but there's where you can see that if the dog is in a situation of being amazing. Hey, Gina, put up Patty Farron, and I appreciate that, Patty. It was a good choice and a hard choice, but one that had to be made. I appreciate that comment very much. It obviously still affects me today, and we're talking 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, that I had to make the decision on the dog that had the brain injury from the car accident. The mental trauma that a dog can be put through post-stress syndrome, post-traumatic stress syndrome, that it can actually happen to a dog, just as it can with a human being. And in some cases, I believe that could cause a dog to become aggressive and to such a state that it would be so difficult to trust a dog. Now, does that kind of dog necessarily need to be put to sleep? No, it could be that it just needs to be with the perfect person who has a place for that kind of dog, that the dog could actually live and thrive and feel free. Somebody that has some land, somebody that understands and rescues these kinds of dogs and gives that dog a place, right? I don't know that necessarily a dog with extreme mental trauma that causes the dog to be aggressive, but maybe gets along with a human being or two human beings, but just cannot be necessarily walked in an environment where there's lots of people and sights and sounds and noises, because those may be the things that sets the dog off. And so hard to break through the mental trauma aspect. It's an injury, right? As a police officer, I got in a car accident, and it was one of my numerous concussions that I got. I was a pole vaulter. I played hockey. I played football. And of course, a couple of arrests. I got kicked in the head by a suspect and knocked out completely. I had, brain trauma, but also it causes some type of mental trauma too. And so I understand that there's some things that your brain does to protect itself when you see, something that triggers a memory, right? And it can cause you to black out. And that's kind of the thing, what I'm talking about with a dog. It could be such an injury that given the right circumstances or situation, or the wrong, actually, the dog fires off and becomes super aggressive and unmanageable, that you don't want to put a dog that has that kind of history into a situation where it's going to fail, because it's really not the dog's fault. It's all our fault for putting the dog into the situation that it never should have been in the first place. So there's people that go, well, I just want my dog to be able to take him to, that's great. That's what we want you to do. We want you not to have to leave your dog in the backyard. But is the dog that you have either a mental injury or a brain injury or mental trauma that is so severe that the dog simply can never be trusted in that situation? If that's the case, then that dog may not need to be euthanized. It just needs to be put in a situation where it never has to be put into that situation, that it's never can be trusted. And it's, again, I go back to the alcoholic scenario. There's some alcoholics that are so bad they can never be trusted in a bar, right? You have some alcoholic, I go in the bar, I can order water or seltzer or whatever, and it's okay. I've trained myself enough, and I know, my weaknesses and that kind of stuff, but I can still be in that kind of. There's others that no way, I cannot be in that situation, right? And that's just the way it is. That's just the way life is. When you have a dog that has a situation, then that decision has to be made. So does that kind of dog need to be euthanized? Probably not. It just needs to be put in a situation where it's just never, in danger of being in the situation that causes it to go off. All right. There are two. Okay. So I thought there was two. So here is another one. Is a dog untrainable? Probably not, but if it's with the wrong handler, with that handler, it's untrainable. Have we seen that? Gina, one of our trainers, who just came on here, is well aware of this situation. We have talked about it before, that, I think that the dog just simply is with the wrong handler. And it's so hard. That's one of the difficult things about being a dog trainer, especially those of us who understand that dog training has more to do with a human being than it has to do with a dog. The dog is the simple part, right? And that if a dog is untrainable, it could be that it's just untrainable with Joe, which is none of you. I thought for a minute, Jack. So not Jack, Joe. Jack would be the perfect handler for a dog that has aggression, because he's worked with dogs with aggression, right? And so, but with Joe, that he is an accountant, right? He has 3 kids. He has a wife, and they travel a lot. And he has no interest in being a dog trainer, but yet he has a dog who has aggression and needs a strong handler who understands how to deal with a dog with aggression, right? With all these problems and with the wrong person, the dog is untrainable, right? So if the dog is with the wrong handler, it is possible that dog is untrainable, but only because it's with the wrong handler. I hope that makes sense. And sometimes we as trainers have to be able to be bold enough to go to a human being and say, listen, this dog is just in the wrong situation. We see this with Belgian Malinois a lot. I love Belgian Malinois for police work. I love them for detection work. There's really good things that Belgian Malinois are really good for, but they just sometimes get into the wrong situation. That is the unfortunate truth. I remember a family, and I've told this story before too, so I apologize, but I'm going to tell it anyway, that I come to training, it's a first day of group training. It's a new class is coming in, and I see this older couple get out of the car, and I can clearly see they're about in their 70s, right? And they get out of the car, and I see that the woman pretty quickly has like bandages on her arm and that kind of stuff. And they get out of the car, and they have a 6-month-old Belgian Malinois. And I just go, what? What? I don't understand. I mean, is there Belgian Malinois that can live with a 7-year-old? Yes. There's Akitas that can live with, a family. There's the exceptions to some of these dogs that have a history, right? But in many cases, the Belgian Malinois is not the dog for a 7-year-old family. And when it's a puppy and already biting the handlers and growling when it does it, and it's doing it with its tail wagging because it's really enjoying the fact that the woman who's getting bit is jumping back. That really feeds into that dog's energy, right? And its desires, because he's getting exactly what he's trying to get. He's trying to get a reaction through the biting, and he's trying to get to where she'll start shaking her arm. And she says, when I go to grab him to get him off, he bites down harder. Exactly. That's how we train police dogs to bite harder. And so the dog is in the wrong situation. And he's going to be untrainable with that family. And in the end, I think it was only like a week or two in, because I wanted to at least give them the opportunity to participate in our training, and then come to them and say, listen, this dog is too fast for you. He's going to hurt you. And he's going to get worse with you because he needs a strong leader. He needs a strong handler. He needs people that understand the breed. And so that dog was in the wrong situation. I do not know. I probably never saw them again, because that's what happens sometimes when you're boldly honest with people, is that sometimes they appreciate it. Many people, I would say more often than not, they appreciate it. But there are those people that say, well, we're going to find somebody else that agrees with me. Right. Okay, fine. But I don't know what happened. I wish I could tell you exactly what happened with that situation. I talked the last time in our last broadcast about, I have police officers who want everybody else's dog except for the one they have, right? That's the wrong handler for the dog that they have, because all they're doing is they're looking at everybody else's dog and they wish their dog would be like theirs. Well, focus on your dog and the dog will be like theirs, right? And so with the wrong handler, that's unfortunately probably something we see, I don't want to say often, but we see it enough that it's a problem. All right. So, I'm not saying that in response to the Facebook posting that I got with the situation that person's in, but that has to be addressed, right? There is this dog who's now bitten the woman and bitten the daughter. Hold on, I'm going to the Falco Canine Academy page here. Hold on, I'm going to find exactly the wording. Oops, I put in Flacco. Yes, I do that too. I know many people want to say that our name is Flacco. Those that speak Spanish know what Flacco means. And let's see. Hopefully, it'll come right up. If it comes right up, then I'll continue. I'll read it. But unless, while I'm doing this, this could be the time for me to remind you. It would be fantastic if you like these videos and like what it is we talk about. Whether you agree with it or not, that's not the issue. If you like the fact that we bring up topics that are, interesting, would you go ahead and give us a 5-star rating and maybe some words saying why you gave us a 5-star rating? That would be awesome. I appreciate that. That would be fantastic. All right. I do not see it. Oh, darn it. I wonder why that showed up on my, maybe it was a private posting of some sort, or maybe they did it on my, I could have sworn it was on the Falco Canine Academy page. Well, anyway, I'll find it and I'll repost it or something like that. But again, that situation could be that the dog is just in the wrong situation, in the wrong family. I'm going to end up showing you a video in just a second, and I can show you the transition of a dog that is in the different hands of a different person. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Actually, you know what? Why don't I show it to you now? Because I do have one more after this. I have another thing that you need to be aware of in relationship. And this is probably the next one's probably the most controversial, and that we're going to probably have a discussion about. Jack Pitt said, wow, you are reading my mind. Exactly what I'm dealing with now. A 2-year-old Malinois that lived with a single parent and an 8-year-old. What a mess. They gave up on the Mally, and I now have the dog with me. What a challenge again. Oh, thank you, Jack. Wow. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Robin Phillips, Skinny Dog Academy. Yeah, Flacco. You're giving me flashbacks. Gina says, you're giving me flashbacks. Where'd it go? I just lost it. How did it disappear? Now I don't know how to get rid of it. Yeah, there you go. You're giving me flashbacks of a private. They wore rubber gloves to work with the bell mount. Yeah, I see that a lot. There was a time where I was working with a Middle Eastern country, not the most recent one, the Kingdom of Bahrain, but Saudi Arabia. And all the handlers that came all wore gloves because they didn't want to touch the dogs, and it hurt their hands. And they all had Malinois and huge German Shepherds, and these guys were so afraid of their dogs, and it was just simply for detection. And yeah, these flashbacks that we have and things that I'm reminded of. But there were 15 of these guys from Saudi Arabia that were flown in. It was not pretty. It was never going to work well. And these weren't even the handlers. So these were the administrators that were only allowed to fly to the United States to be in this program, but they weren't going to be the handlers of the dogs. They were just preparing the dogs for the handlers when they would go back. And then those handlers that we were training would go back and train the handlers that the dogs would be with. And they're all handling with gloves because they were afraid of the dogs. And yeah. All right. So let me go ahead and show you this video. I got to share my screen here. I got so excited to start that I didn't prepare this ahead of time. All right, I'm going to show you. This is a video that actually somebody just recently liked. They just liked it on the Falco Canine Academy page, and it happened to pop up today. And I go, wow, I'm doing a Facebook Live on this very subject. But this is the title of this, and you can find it on our Facebook page. It's called, "Do you have a love-hate relationship with your dog? Is your dog aggressive?" Falco Canine Academy can help. Just watch. And so this is Aldo Secchi, one of our trainers from Argentina, who's coming back. And also one of our other trainers makes an appearance here at one point where she was here just learning. And she now has her own training program. And so maybe if she's watching, she'll recognize herself. And so let me go ahead and share the screen. I'm hoping this will work well. And I'm going to make it solo, so I'm going to disappear here for a second. But hopefully you can hear me. I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to let it run, and then I'll come back, and I'll give you that next one, the one that's going to be really controversial. I just know. All right, here we go. Come on. Come on. Everything work together. Come on. Hello. Work for me. Oh, there we go. Dog has a muzzle on. I'm not sure if you can see it because I made it black and white to show the dark days. Okay. 5 minutes later, no corrections were used on this dog whatsoever. We just gave the dog a leader. That's what it said. You can't see because my lower third's in the way. Just gave the dog a leader he can trust and be at peace with. Look at the dog's mouth is open. The tongue's hanging out. He is looking around a little bit, but you can see at least his mouth is open, even through the muzzle. A dog that is tense will often have their mouth closed. Living with Aldo kisses the dogs. The dog started licking his lips there, so probably was a little bit nervous. And he begins walking around the dog. Of course, Aldo had to get a kiss. Remember when Aldo approached, the dog went off, right? The dog has a leader now. And as she walked away, sometimes the dog will act out when somebody walks away, but the dog didn't act out. All right. Stop that video. Stop. So you see, when you give a dog a leader, when you change the dog's situation and perspective, you can change a dog, right? And so really, really important that, do you think there is a little fear? Yeah. Yeah. So many dogs. That's the fear aggression. Exactly what Jack says right there. I was going to, Melina, not going to say her name, but, yeah, Melina. And so, and yeah, so Jack, yeah, you're correct. That's obviously a very clear sign of fear aggression. And it often stems from the handler, right? You saw the handler backing up, right? And the handler's going, oh, my dog's in a situation where I know that it's going to attack. I know this is coming. And they start tensing up. They start pulling back on the leash. They start changing their breathing patterns. They start changing the way that they're standing. All of that signals to the dog that the human's fearful. Now, is the human necessarily fearful of Aldo? No, the handler is fearful of what the dog is going to do, but does the dog don't know that? No. All the dog knows is that the handler's fearful, right? And so much of our job, and Gina and Melina and Derek, who is also in that video, and Aldo, we spend most of our time dealing with human beings to teach them how not to signal to their dog that they're afraid, well knowing that they're afraid of what their dog is going to do, not about the situation, not about the person. They are fearful of the situation they're in because of the way their dog acts, right? And so we spend so much time of, you know what we need? That's why you have to have the right attitude. When you're training a dog that has aggression, you as the handler, you as the trainer need to give the handler the strength and the understanding that, you know what, look at this as a challenge for you to show the dog that you believe in the dog. That you're going to come in, oh, this is going to be so much fun. I'm going to take this dog in a situation where I know it's going to go ape shit, or it's going to go crazy. All right. And have fun with it in the sense that you're on the road to making a difference, right? We're going to figure out how it is we teach the dog that it's okay. We have this situation, dog. We're in control of the situation. Follow my lead, right? I feel comfortable when other people approach, right? You need to be like me. You need to be comfortable with people that are approaching. How do we do that? By demonstrating to the dog that we are comfortable in these situations, not demonstrate to him that we are fearful when we're in situations. It is a huge deal, right? It has a lot to do with your attitude as the human being, and has a lot to do with the attitude with the dog trainer. Aldo coming in there never showed signs, although I did see him back up once there, and I spot those things because that's hard not to do because you don't know for sure if the handler has a hold of the dog, right? And you want to minimize those as the trainer too, because you don't want to give the dog power with your motions. And it could have caused that dog to probably bark 5 or 6 more times because of Aldo stepping back that one time when he saw the dog coming towards him. But again, it's hard when you have a handler that you don't know whether you can trust. When we took that video, we were seeing that woman for the first time, right? We had the phone call. We get a lot of phone calls where people say, my dog is aggressive. And I go, yeah, right. And when they get there, because we know it rarely is the dog like that, right? That's when you hear me say nice, because that's when I go, finally, we have a dog that's really aggressive, because quite often it's just not as bad as what they tell us on the phone. In this case, that was a strong fear reaction and a strong aggression to the fear. With a Malinois now at a dog park. Okay, yeah. All right, so let's talk about the last controversial one. At least the dog had a muzzle when she brought it. Yeah, well, I told her. Because she had me convinced that the dog was actually pretty aggressive. And I go, okay, if it's that aggressive, then if you have a muzzle, she goes, oh, I do. I put on the dog. Well, go ahead and put it on. And then if the dog gets there, we may end up taking the muzzle off, because again, in most cases, it's not that bad. And it was pretty bad. All right, here's the last one. And this is going to be the toughest one for some people. And this is probably the hardest one I have for people. I've had people cry and leave. We used to do a classroom before our obedience class. We'd bring them into a classroom without their dogs so that they can hear us and focus. We now send them the classroom in a video so they can watch it. But we used to have classroom. We'd bring all the human beings that are going to be in our next class, and there'd be a time where I would say this very thing that we're going to talk about right now. And I've had once, maybe more than a couple times, people leave because they felt they were in the wrong spot. And so, because it's not easy to hear this, you, the human being who has a dog, may love their dog too much and not expect respect. Too much love, not enough respect. People can love dogs, love their dog to the extent that they're causing the dog to have behavioral problems. So how does this work? Well, it works mostly, I can say, in dogs that come to homes where the dog has a known history of abuse or of a hard life on the street, a shelter life where they've lived in a kennel. And so you see this because when the dog comes to this home, the first thing people think they need to do with a dog like that is give the dog free run and not get involved in setting up rules and boundaries right away. So they bring a dog in, and for the first couple of days, the dog is perfectly fine. Remember that in a dog that you rescue and bring to a home, you don't see the true behavior for the true personality for probably the first 2 weeks. After that, then you'll begin to see what the dog's really about, right? And so what adds to that is that a dog comes into a situation where it's been in a kennel, or it's had a rough life, or it's been abused. It has mental trauma that it's been through, and it comes into home, and now it's like, oh, I just want you to feel comfortable here. Here's your bed. Go in and out of the house whenever you want to. I'm not going to make you heel. Pull on the leash as much as you want. Lay on the bed, lay on the couch. And they do all this thing where they go, it's just, I want to give this dog love. It's a huge problem. It's not, that is the exact wrong thing you need to do with a dog, especially a dog that has a history or has been in situations where it's not been a happy one. It's been maybe, in a crate, much less a kennel, right? The dog has to come out and understand that you love the dog enough that you're going to give it good leadership, that you're going to show it what it can and can't do, that it can't just bolt out the door whenever you open the door and push you aside, that it can't chase the UPS guy away and bark at him with growling and snarling and go, it's okay, he's had a bad life, and you end up petting the dog during the aggression. Well, I'm just trying to calm him down. Wrong. Oh, wrong. And I hate to be so stern on this stance, but I'm telling you, it is one of the biggest mistakes people can make when bringing a dog to the home, is that the first week or 2 weeks is spent giving the dog as much freedom as he possibly can, not expect the dog to have some sense of obedience, to understand that it's not to be on every couch and laying in your bed underneath the covers with his head on the pillow, that it's not the leader of the home. You give a dog, there's two things wrong with it. You're giving the dog a sense that it has a higher role in the hierarchy of within the home. And then a dog, again, if I go back to what I talked about earlier, is that dogs love leadership and need leadership. They love it and they need it. Whether they like it or not, that's not the issue. Deep down inside, a child wants a parent and needs a leader to lead them into adulthood. They need it. Right? They may not like it. I know my kids, I have 5 of them, so I have experience, don't like it when I take the leadership role, right? They do not like it. My kids love me, right? I know they love me. They tell me they love me randomly. They don't tell me they love me just when they want something. They will call me and tell me that they miss me and they love me, right? And so I know that as much as, and I know I can tell because I have kids that range from 3, they go from 3, 6, 9, 11, I got to think, and 23, right? So I have all the age groups right now, right? And I see the neighborhood kids and that kind of stuff. And they have great families and great parents and that kind of stuff too. I do see some differences, right? I hear things like, Mom, my mom doesn't make me, how come your dad's making you do the dishes? From some kids of the same age that are here at the house. Like, I don't have to do that. You have to make your bed? Like, what? You don't have to make your bed? My dad doesn't care when I come home. My mom, I can come home whenever I want. I hear these things, and you can see that there's some problems, right? You can see that it's problematic as the child gets older. Remember, I'm also not a believer that every kid gets a trophy at the end of the football season or baseball season or hockey season, whatever it is they're playing is sports. I think they need to earn whatever it is they get. Things have to be earned, then you have to lose. I hate these games where everybody wins. No. People lose. Damn it. Learn to lose and learn to win. Learn from your losing, right? You can believe that you're not, when you're not losing, you're not learning. I think that's the best way to look at that. All right. So a dog, now back to dogs, is the same thing, right? You bring this dog into your home. The dog has to know that, no, I go out of the door first. No, you sit and wait for me to put the ball on the ground. You don't jump up on me and hit the ball and knock it out of my hands. You sit, you look me in the eye and give me acknowledgement that I am providing you with this meal. And through your eyes, you can thank me because you're giving me the respect that you understand that I'm the one who keeps you alive by giving you water and food. And in some cases, a roof over their heads, right? In shade, in shelter and comfort and love, right? Appropriate love, right? Appropriate in the sense that you're not giving them just random love, right? Oh, it's like, again, I go back to the kids, like, oh, it's okay that you broke the TV by throwing the football in the house when I told you not. It's okay. We'll just get another one, right? Is that that's what we do with our dogs, right? It's okay that it's okay. I'm not going to discipline him for eating, my Bruno Mollies. I don't know. I've always had Bruno Mollies on my head since the OJ trial. So it's okay that you ate my Bruno Mollies. I'm not going to discipline you. It's only your first week here. No, right? You don't leave those things out. You teach the dog rules and respect, and you have to give the dog the rules and boundaries it needs to be a good dog and to live within your family, so that you can have good times, so that you can take your dog for a walk, so you can take your dog hiking, so you can take your dog on those road trips that you go on. If you don't, then you're not going to want to take your dog on. If you don't teach the dog the rules and boundaries, are you going to want to take that dog for a walk when it becomes aggressive towards skateboarders, when it becomes aggressive towards other dogs? You can't take the dog to, a restaurant that allows you to bring dogs, to Lazy Dog, for instance, or to Starbucks to sit out there on the patio. You cannot. You would not be able to. You're going to end up leaving that dog at home because you didn't take the time to give that dog the understanding of what it means to be obedient, to what it means to be sociably acceptable and accept other dogs into its life, and to pass by another person with a dog without lashing out and growling and snarling and barking, right? These are all trainable things. You just have to be a handler that demands respect and leadership and demands the love from your dog that is gained through respect. And you need to love your dog enough to give them the rules and boundaries they need so that you can respect them as a dog. It absolutely is a relationship that needs to be built through love and respect. All right. I'm going to give you a link here. And I hope I didn't go on too many tangents. Gina will tell me. You can click on this link, and it's a report on training your dog with love and respect. If you haven't got it yet, just click on that link. You just need to put your name and email address in there, and I'll email it to you, and you'll get it in a PDF. And it talks about these very things that I'm talking about. And so you're going to want to read that just to kind of support what it is I'm talking about. If there's anything that you disagree with, please tell me. I love that the comments I get. Of course, I love that Robin Phillips is one of my saviors in my life, and just love Robin Phillips to death. I love Gina. She's a fantastic dog trainer. She's great with people and understands that she's a human trainer first and the dog trainer second. I love the comments from Jack. I love your clear and concise explanations. I found a lot of dog owners do not want to hurt their dog's feelings. Yes. Therefore, it is not about love and respect. As a pack leader, again, I love the good. Thank you. The famous, it is okay with a high pitch. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay that you pissed on my leg. It's okay. Don't worry about it. I love this. Going to share on my private dog handler page. Good. Thank you, Gina. You're free to share anything you want. I love that Melina made an appearance. I love that Derek made an appearance, and Aldo. Those are all of our trainers that we all love. There's a great story with Aldo, with him spending the night in the parking lot there. The very parking lot you see him training now, he spent the night there, probably 3 days waiting for me to show up. He showed up from Argentina. He wanted to learn from us here at Falco Canine Academy. And I came back. I forget where I was. I came back from somewhere that I was traveling to. And here's this guy sleeping in his car, a rental car, and said, I've been watching your videos for years, and I just want to learn from you. And we're practically brothers now. And he's coming back to us in I think it's November. I got to look at the last message I got. We finally, I could talk about, no, I'm not. We went through the proper channels to get him permission to be here in the United States. It took us a long time, the way that it's supposed to be done. And he is going to come here with the proper paperwork to live and work here in the United States of America. And I am proud that we went through that. It took a long time, but he is going to come here and work with us because we did what we were supposed to do. And there's times where I said, Aldo, why don't you just come over? I mean, everybody else, that just comes over. And he reminded me that it wasn't the right thing to do. And so we went through everything that we needed to do to get him here legally and with the proper paperwork and the proper documentation so he can work here. So he'll be coming back. And there you go. And so make sure and click on there's 2 links you need to click on. I know that in most cases you shouldn't have 2 call to actions on a Facebook thing that I'm doing, but there are 2 call to actions. If you haven't got it yet, get the report on training your dog with love and respect. It's just a small 7-page thing that I put together just to kind of reinforce the things we talked about. And then the Animal Wellness Summit, click on that link, register. Whether you can be at all 10 days, it doesn't matter. Just register for it because I think there's going to be enough good speakers there. You're going to want to hear about some of the things I have to say. And again, I am not expecting everybody to believe in everything that I'm saying to be fact. I know that I have a lot of experience, 30 years of experience. I've seen a lot of things. I've tried some of the old ways. I used to beat dogs with a stick. I used to shock them with a cattle prod. I was part of a training program where the trainer used to sharpen the pinch collar so they had a point on them, and they used that for training. I lived through that and hated it and then got out of it. And then I came up with a new training for dog training, training with love and respect, and became more of a positive reinforcement type of trainer, not getting necessarily away from corrections when they're necessary. They're necessary. And so it is a complete turnaround from how I was trained, just so you know. All right. I've trained a police dog with as close to purely positive reinforcement as I possibly could. Did it work? Yes. However, when you give it to another handler, he could not continue the process because it's a difficult one, and you have to be a trainer in order to do that. All right. And so are the people that can do a mostly positive reinforcement thing? For some things, yes. And so, and again, you can tell me that I'm full of poop, right? The last person that I finally had that didn't agree with what I was saying, she didn't comment until just before I clicked off. And so I don't want you to be one. If you don't like what it is I'm talking about or think that what I'm talking about is not correct, I want to hear from you. And so I want to hear that as much. Again, most dogs are trainable. And so just understand that we need to look at some issues though. And one of those things may be looking at the situation the dog is in. All right. And so that's what an evaluation is for. If you need your dog evaluated and looked at, go ahead and call our office, and Gina and Derek will be glad to evaluate your dog and determine what it is that we can do for you. In most cases, we suggest group obedience because that's where the dog's going to be put in the most likely situations. It's going to cause the dog to act out because there's other dogs there and other people, and we can actually put your dog in the situation that is going to cause them to act out, so we can fix it and give you the situations, give you the tools to alter your dog's behavior. And so you got that, and then there's privates. Right. And there's also board and trains that can be done. So that's it. All right. Click on the links. Thank you, Gina. Jack says, what is the name again? Aldo Secchi. He's actually from Argentina, not from Brazil. I think some people think he's from Brazil. I don't know if he's the same guy, but Aldo Secchi is from Argentina. And Gina says, yeah. And looking for more than I missed. So Jack and Gina went up a hill to fetch a pail of water. Patty, I hope you continue to join us. Thank you, Patty, very much for joining us. And I don't think I missed it. Oh, Robin. I forgot about Robin. Robin joined us. And all the other people. There's more people I can see that are watching that didn't put their information on there. If you're watching the replay, also, please put your information in there as to where you're watching from, and any comments, because I do get notified, as you know how Facebook works. I get notified whenever there's a comment. All right. Well, thank you for joining me. I hope this was a good use of your time to watch this broadcast. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to contact me through Facebook so that we can give you exactly what it is you need. All right. Click on the links, register for the Animal Summit, and I will see you on the next video. All right. Take care. Talk to you later. Bye.